So I think next we should discuss good old Wayne Madison discussing Jeffrey Epstein on Infowars this past week. And boy, was I shocked about this. I never expected this in a million years. I never expect Wayne Madison to be back on Infowars again after he's changed his stances, being against Trump and investigating Jeffrey Epstein. And you know, he has written stuff, you know, negatively in the past, like a 2008 article that allegedly links Roger Stone to to being a lawyer for the Nexium cult, which he was, as well as being part of kind of like those pedophile rings and blackmail rings and everything. And that's, you can still find that article on Infowars. But still, nonetheless, I did not expect Madison to be back on, and Madison really let me down. I have to give my boy Ed Opperman credit, saying that he didn't fully trust Madison, and about his information that Madison was going to give to him concerning Maria, which we'll talk about in a little bit, and Trump. But yeah, I mean, let's talk about it. So Madsen starts talking about that he had his doubt when the Access Hollywood tape came out about Trump. You know, grab him by the pussy. Now, I didn't think grab him by a pussy was that big of a deal back then. I still don't think it. I don't think it really swayed anybody's opinion to not vote for Donald Trump. More likely, it actually made a few people actually vote for him.
Yes.
And of course, you know, he said that she let him, so there was no indication of malfeasance there. But when you add everything together about Trump, was alleged accusations about all the sleazy things that he has done, sexual advances, rape of teenage girls. You know, it kind of makes you put it all together. Then you're kind of like, well, yeah, then maybe there is something wrong with Trump saying that. But you know, Trump. You know, Madsen talks about later that there are some later issues he had with Trump on the eve of the election. Trump appoints Alex Acosta, who was the attorney that gave Jeffrey Epstein the sweetheart deal, and as labor secretary. And of course, Madsen mentioned the Department of Labor investigates human trafficking due to child labor laws. That's actually correct. I verified that. The Department of Labor, the State Department, and the Justice Department handling trafficking. Of course, the Department of Labor and State Department investigating it, and the Justice Department investigating to and handling punishment as well.
Wait. John, are you
So
saying that we couldn't trust Rex Tillerson, Alex Acosta, and Jeff Sessions to round up those
Oh,
pedos?
oh no, 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 no! If any of you Q-tards out there think that trust a plan that Jeff Sessions was rounding up them pedos, you're full of crap, and we'll get to that later. Um, so you know, Trump comes in and says, you know, who do I put in? You know, and Alex Jones says, I doubt Trump's bringing a bunch of Republicans to work for him and makes him Jeffrey Epstein. And then Alex Jones says, why is the Miami Herald not pointing out Clinton on the airplane? Bill Clinton taking all those numerous trips to with Jeffrey Epstein on the airplane and Lolita Express. Well, actually, Alex Jones is lying there. I went and looked, and the Miami Herald has reported that Bill Clinton flew numerous times on the Lolita Express, and that Epstein donated frequency and may have helped to start the Clinton Foundation. Now, granted, they didn't report this during the 2016 election. They actually threw their hat in, you know, for Hillary Clinton. Um, but they did mention that. Bill mentioned that Bill Clinton flew at least 26 times on the Lolita Express. And of course, you know, we do know from information that not all those times, you know, they were with Secret Service. You know, it's supposed to be a long process to get Secret Service to not follow you, even if you are the president. You got to fill out forms, and there's a paper trail, and it's a hassle. Hillary Clinton also flew on the Lolita Express too, quite a number of times. Epstein also personal phone directory had email addresses from the Clintons, personal email addresses, 21 phone numbers of the Clintons, including Bill Clinton's assistant Doug Brand, his schedules, and all that. So, you know, when we talk about Trump tonight, his relation to Jeffrey Epstein, and of course Alex Jones says, "Well, I hear you talk about Trump, but not really talk about Clinton." Look, Bill Clinton and the Clintons were heavily steeped in Epstein. Okay, no one's denying that here. All right. And I hear people like Ed Opperman. Ed Opperman's not denying it. Nathan Stoltman ain't denying it. Okay, this ain't a this isn't left versus right. This isn't a blue versus red. This ain't none of that. All right. Trump and Epstein is just as a real connection as Clinton and Epstein. And a lot of Q-tards and people that are in the magosphere, they only look at Epstein and Clinton. They do not look at Trump and Epstein, and that's a problem.
Well, I would also have to, say Wayne Madsen, and that was a pretty abysmal performance on my end. It came across to me like two 21-year-old college students who read Reddit all the time, kind of saying their joint talking points. But Wayne Madsen did make one good point when Alex Jones, started pushing the whole, "Why don't you talk about Clinton?" He said, "Well, the Clintons are just retired random people. Donald Trump is the president." That does have to change the factor. It was one thing during the election when you had things like all the Jane Doe lawsuits against Trump, and Alex Jones and Roger Stone were talking about before the second debate that was a tactic being done so that they couldn't bring up the Clinton Epstein connection. But the calculus does change, and there's a lot of things going on. Not to get too much off of this exchange between Alex Jones and Wayne Madsen, but we've been following the issues with Dershowitz lately, and this whole thing. There's a lot of stuff that went down with Epstein in Florida. That a lot of different parties that we've been seeing lately don't want to come forward. So anyway, I'll continue elucidating us on this exchange and. Yeah.
Oh, very, very much so, Jason. 100% agree. We're actually going to do eventually an episode on We've Read the Documents, my other podcast, deeply detailing Epstein and get more in detail in this. But yes, I agree with you the way Madsen and Alex Jones, of course, Alex Jones is CMP controlled, um, which stands for the Council for National Policy. If anybody's listening that did not know what that is, definitely Google the Council for National Policy. And one of the truest things that Hillary Clinton ever said that there was a vast right wing conspiracy against her and her husband when it came to Monica Lewinsky, and that was true. That was cooked up by the Council for National Policy in 1998. But anyway, I digress. So Alex Jones kind of put, he kind of puts the whole that Trump's our guy. He just appointed one guy to one thing, which Alex Acosta is the head of labor. That's just not one guy to one thing, you know. And it's hilarious enough that Alex Jones, when he puts up the article about Clinton flying on the Lita Express, it mentions nothing else about Trump also flying on Epstein's plane once, where he took a ride to New York back from Florida, where he rode with Epstein's brother, Mark Epstein. And then Mark Epstein mentioned that Trump and Epstein were friends in that deposition. But Trump had his own plane. Trump isn't going to be flying around at this time using Epstein's Lolita Express unless he has to, because Trump had his own private plane. Where Bill Clinton didn't. And Madsen mentions that politicians do get free rides all the time, and I agree. To the private planes, I can see that happening. But that being less, Bill Clinton isn't just some politician. He's a former president. The Clintons are corrupt. I mean, we sit here and talk about the alleged drug running through Mena, Arkansas, or the Clinton Foundation, or Haitian sex trafficking. Look, I don't think the Clintons. I think that was one of Alex Jones's poorest tactics. Jason was sitting there saying, "Well, Wayne Madsen, why are you defending the Clintons? Was always how you defend the Clintons." And Wayne Madsen didn't. Wayne Madsen has always talked bad about the
That's
Clintons, and you're right. You're right that the Clintons aren't in power, people. Hillary Clinton's not president. Donald Trump is.
Well, there's a certain segment, and I think a lot of the audience on Infowars fall into this. Sean Hannity does that a lot too, where he just goes on about Uranium One and why isn't Hillary in jail. There's a certain crowd that just is obsessed with the lock her up thing, and I think that's kind of playing to those people. Like when you're saying things that people might start doing some research on, and I'm assuming I haven't really watched Infowars in the last few months because it's not as easy to come by as it used to be. Um, but I'm assuming that from what I've seen lately, Alex Jones is still largely a bandwagon guy for Trump. So I'm assuming his audience,
Oh, very much so.
yeah. So I'm sure his audience, he doesn't want his audience digging around and looking up these things that Wade Madsen was bringing up. So he's just like, Clinton, squirrel, look over there. Trump, Epstein, now lies. 8chan.
So yeah, Wayne Madsen mentions there's 104 Jane Does per court records. I have not verified that yet, but he did mention that. Alex Jones also, he said Epstein's been coming up for decades. I've never heard Trump's involvement until right before the election, and it turned out to be nothing. I'm not denying Epstein. I've exposed him up front. I'm not denying the whole Clinton operation with Epstein. To me, all of these stories look like cover for the Clintons while we were hammering Epstein, hammering Pizzagate, and suddenly, oh, Trump was at a party. Dismissing that Trump was at a party and that's the only connection. That's horse crap. I mean, Wayne Madsen mentioned that Trump and Epstein was reported in 2002 back then, but we weren't looking close enough, during the election, and that's true. And of course, Alex Jones just runs rut shot all over Madsen. But Madsen is right that look, Jones says, well, there's just one party and that's all it is. No, there's Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump were friends. I mean, in the New York Magazine 2002 article, you know, Donald Trump says, I've known Jeff for 15 years, terrific guy. He's a lot of fun to be with. As he even said, he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side, no doubt about it. Jeffrey enjoys his social life. There's many pictures of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, the daughter of Robert Maxwell, the famous Israeli spy. There's many pictures of them together, pictures of Trump's family of all of them together. Epstein was a member of Mar-a-Lago. Now, some Q-tards and people in the magosphere will say, well, Trump did ban Epstein. Well, we don't know that. Apparently, that came from James Patterson's book on Epstein, Dirty Rich. But I have not been able to verify that anywhere else other than that book. And when Derek Bros from the Consciousness Resistance or something, he's got a YouTube channel. He interviewed Bradley Edwards, an attorney for Epstein's alleged victims, and asked him about it. Edwards said he heard of the rumor too, but he wasn't able to verify it either. So, when all those people say, well, Trump banned Epstein because a wealthy member of the Mar-a-Lago's daughter said that Epstein tried to get invited his daughter to her house and allegedly tried to get him to undress and try to have sex with her. There's no proof of that. There's no proof that Trump did it, the band. It could have been someone else who worked at Mar-a-Lago. There's no proof that Trump knew. Like, there's no proof of that. And also, when we have Epstein's black book, there were many numbers and emails in there for the Trump Organization, Mar-a-Lago, Trump's security team, Melania Trump, Trump Management Inc., which of course was run by Robert Trump, who's Trump's brother, and Blaine Trump, his sister-in-law. I mean, Epstein was big friends with Trump. There's no doubt about it. But yet people always try to throw shade, like Alex Jones tried to do, and say, well, they just knew each other and that's it. Or they were time at a party. It just blows my mind. I mean, what do you think about that?
I see too many people scrambling with lawsuits and trying to find out what the Miami Herald knows before the rest of us know it. Just kind of brush that aside.
Yeah, and Alex Jones also mentions that the lawsuits Epstein settled made no mention of Trump. That's not true. Virginia Guffrey settled hers in October 2017, and it mentioned Trump in that article. And she, and that lawsuit, should I say not article, but she was the tower girl at Mar-a-Lago, and her father was maintenance man for Mar-a-Lago, and he worked for Trump at Mar-a-Lago. And that's where Ghislaine Maxwell had actually acquired Virginia Guffrey, was at Mar-a-Lago to come do massages. Of course, she was the famous girl when she was young who was allegedly molested by Jeffrey Epstein, allegedly by Alan Dershowitz, and allegedly by Ghislaine Maxwell and Prince Andrew. There's actually a picture of her. I think when she's 17, with Prince Andrew's arm around her, with her wearing provocative clothing. So yeah, I mean, no one, everybody says when they talk about Kate Johnson, and alleged Jane Doe that made the allegations against Trump and Epstein, that Trump had allegedly molested her at an orgy that I think it was at Lex Wexner's estate, and that Trump and Epstein have both had sex with her. They always say that she isn't that good of a character because when she filed her first lawsuit, it was in California, and she filed it wrong, and also she when she filed it, she filed it at an incorrect address and a disconnected phone number, but she could have been living on the streets at that time, homeless. So if you look at all the lawsuits against Trump for the Jane Does, and you look at Trump's behavior, and you look at Trump's being, related to Jeffrey Epstein, his friendship with him, and his friendship, and Epstein's friendship with the modeling agency of John-Luc Brunel, and Trump having his own modeling agency too. And you look at all this, you can't. The average person would go, maybe I need to research this, and maybe Trump is in on this to some degree. But no, most people that either believe in Q, I call Q-tards, or the people in the magosphere, they just completely discount it without looking at it. And I did too. I discounted it 2 years ago. I actually wrote a little mini deposition, not deposition, but I guess like a dossier saying that Trump's innocent with Epstein, but actually going back and looking at research now is completely wrong. So it's just funny how that works. You know what I mean, Jason? So yeah, I mean, definitely, if anybody wants to know the truth, look into Virginia Guffrey, read James Patterson's Dirty Rich book for a basic narrative. Look into the work of Wayne Madsen. Look into the work of definitely look into the work of Ed Opperman when it comes to Jeffrey Epstein for sure. Um, but yeah, I mean, with all this stuff, it's just crazy how Jones still says that Trump's rounding up and stopping those pedos, and you know, none of these people did
It's not
anything
crazy at all,
wrong, and
though. I mean,
you
that's what
know,
he's supposed to say.
I know it's just I can't believe I used to believe in that, and it's just sad. But you got anything else to say on
Oh,
the Madsen interview
you're by
with
far
Jones or
the
anything?
foremost expert on the.
Well, I guess one thing we should mention is them both dogpiling real quick. Them dogpiling on Bannon and the
Well,
Mercers. I think Steve Bannon and the Mercers have fallen out of favor with the Council for National Policy, as they say, because a lot of people hate Breitbart and Steve Bannon and the Mercers and who the Mercers fund. There seems to be a big war. You can always see there's a big war in the CMP between who likes the Mercers and who hates the Mercers, who likes Breitbart and who hates Breitbart, who likes Bannon and who doesn't like Bannon. Would you agree with me on that?
has Bannon been seen anywhere since he did that interview with Cernovich? I haven't. I mean,
No, but then again, he also went to go visit Epstein too,
well, he
which they
was
brought up, and
everywhere for a
also
while. He
brought
was
up a
talking to the
Steve.
Financial Times. He was talking to business. I mean, he was hitting the circuit. He did that debate with David Frum. He was all over the place, and he was talking to what he would call "quote unquote" the opposition media on a very regular basis, very publicly. And then he did that kind of down low periscope with Cernovich, and he just kind of disappeared.
Yeah, I find it really interesting that what they said about Bannon was very true. About him visiting Epstein and meeting with Epstein recently, about his alleged house that was with his wife, where they were allegedly shooting pornography and possible producing of crystal meth and underage girls going in and out of that, and also with Steve Bannon's connections. Oh God, what was that guy's name? The guy who open secret always talks a lot about
No,
Brian
but yeah,
Singer. What we call it an open shill, because we'll get to an open secret eventually one day. Um, but yeah, the connections between Bannon and Brian Singer in that group that Singer was connected to. But yeah, I mean, it's all just interesting when you look into Infowars. They tell the truth sometime, and that was the only truth in the whole entire interview was Steve Bannon. But again, it was a whole, just like Alex Jones mentioning Pizzagate. Look at this hand, don't look at this
well,
hand.
the
You know
mystique
what I
of
mean?
Steve Bannon has always been why is it the right wing populist movement has put all its faith in a Goldman Sachs executive who worked for Hollywood. I've never